Ran, please take the stage. There is a short video, so let's watch the video, and please take the stage.
Hi, good morning all. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Cyber Week. Well, as hard as it is to believe, the young general with the full black hair in the picture is myself 26 years ago, when I actually started the first cyber program in Israel, a tech program that was by far the first cyber program all over the world. We are talking about the early days of the internet. Internet was only in universities. Nobody had internet at home. But we thought then that in the future, nation-states would attack each other not only by missiles, but also by attacking critical infrastructure and critical industries. And in order to be protected, you need to know to attack. So we started this program. Now, initially, there was a furious opposition to this program. People said the young general lost his mind, investing in science fiction, but luckily we were stubborn enough. And one of the reasons Israel is probably the leading force in the cyberspace, and maybe the reason half of you from the audience came here to Israel, is because we have started very, very early. Let's go now to the world of cyber, which actually is the word itself. Now, the world has experienced a dramatic change about 12 years ago. Before that, there was some kind of a balance between attackers and defenders. If you bought the right firewall and the right antivirus, you were good enough protected. But about 12 years ago, attackers become more and more aggressive, more sophisticated, and even bold, and defenders could not react properly. From the attacker side, there are many reasons for that, but the main three ones, the first one is pretty trivial, and the Prime Minister talked about it yesterday. Cybercrime is very, very profitable and involves almost no risk to the attacker. So many capable people decided to join the party. The second reason took part about 6 years ago, when a Russian group by the name of Shadow Broker stole a huge amount of attack tools from the NSA, and it was for sale in the darknet. So every 12-year-old hacker could go there, pay $200, and use a nation-state attack tool to attack others. But the third reason, which is more recent, but even more dangerous, is the fact that today's hacker, in the last 2 years, are heavily, heavily backed, supported, and even instructed by nation-states. Russia, North Korea, China, and Iran. For the nation-state, it's a good way to augment and to enlarge their attack groups. And also, it's a good way for them to say, this is not us, maybe some private group attacked you. From the attacker, it actually exposed them to a different level of financing, and more importantly, to nation-state technology and methodology. And they are now using it against the private sector, against everybody. So just as two examples, one is, you can see the Department of Justice in the US, they have sued two private people from China, and the accusation was that they were actually attacking forges that the Chinese government, they're taking targets in the US. And in the right-hand side, this is a gentleman, he's an Iranian, we know him personally, he's a criminal. But in the last few years, he's actually working more than 60% of his time for the Iranian government. Now, these are roughly the names of all known attacker groups in the world. A substantial part of them are private groups. These are Chinese, Russian, Iranian, and North Korea. It is interesting to note that traditionally each country have a different reasons or different motivation for attacks. For Russia, it is traditionally creating disorder and panic in the Western world. They are using for that very wisely. They used and they are using social media for that. And this is very, very effective, and we all read it in the newspaper. For the Chinese, for many years, it was mainly espionage, IP. North Korea and Iran started as a terror, but moved gradually more and more to simple cyber crime. In North Korea, substantial part of the national budget is based on cybercrime. Now, for both North Korea and Iran, it came after a long list of international tight sanctions over Iran and North Korea. It is interesting because in the last few months, the same phenomena happened in Russia. Russia is suffering a huge amount of sanctions, and what we are expecting is that Russia is moving toward intensive cybercrime. It will affect all of us. Iran and North Korea are already there. It is fascinating to think where China is going. But there is no doubt we are expecting very challenging days going forward. Defenders could not react properly. So, we are all aware of the huge shortage of skilled cybersecurity manpower. But the real challenge is that the only way to deal with this level of aggressiveness and sophistication and nation-backed attackers is if you can think like the attacker. And the only efficient way to think like the attacker is if you have an attacker background yourself. And in the Western world, it is either impossible in most of the world because most of the European countries are not allowed to attack, or very, very expensive in the US and the UK. The only exception for that in the Western world is Israel. In Israel, service is mandatory, so every year 130, 140,000 boys and girls join the military. The military picks the brightest 1,000, as was described by the deputy of 8200, that I have no idea what his name is. And these guys going through an intensive cyber courses, but more importantly, for 10 years, taking part in mission-critical, state-of-the-art, most sophisticated in the world attack missions. But by the age of 30, 96% of them would leave to the private sector because they don't need so many people. They have a fresh flow of 1,000. First 3 years, don't have to pay them. So actually, the system allows a constant annual flow of world-class cyber experts, thousands of them, that are much better educated, more sophisticated, more creative than the worst hackers of the world, yet they are good people. My son is one of them. And they are the people that in Israel, this is the reason, the second reason why you are all here. So what we've learned so far, attackers became more sophisticated and more aggressive, backed by countries. Defenders could not react properly. So no wonder all reports in the world indicating that each one of us, anytime, anywhere, is a target for a nation-state grade cyber attack. Now, no wonder CISOs are extremely worried all over the world. But have we lost the war? Not at all. A good example for it is Ukraine. Let's admit, we all expected the moment the war will start, Russia will attack and paralyze Ukraine, cyber-wise. Now, this did not happen. They have attacked furiously and still attacking. They have some successes, but the country is not paralyzed. And this is an outcome of an international unique gathering. Companies, we know that Microsoft allowed them to upload the critical infrastructure to the cloud, and other companies, but also countries working days and nights to help Ukraine to be better protected. And we're learning from that even if you are facing a furious, ruthless, knowledgeable superpower, if you are taking the right defense, it is effective. Now, this is countries. Let's see what each one of you, of us, need to make sure you need to do in order to be protected with this organization. So the principles, the approach is pretty simple. You need to make sure that your trusted advisor, people that help you to be protected, have the right team. And I'm talking about ex-government attackers that are familiar with the attacker. 2, that he has adopted the right methodology. In HolistiCyber, we call it OFM, Offensive Framework Methodology, meaning we act as your defender, what we do it from the attacker point of view. Knowing the attacker, knowing what exhausts the attacker, what frightens the attacker, allows us to take calculated risk, allows us to be much more practical, allows us to prioritize, and this is extremely, extremely important. You need to make sure he adopted a holistic approach, dealing not only with your cyber system, but also with the supply chain and HR and the like, have a good access, proprietary access to darknet intelligence, and have the technology in order to be able to automate, to be more and more efficient. So the principles are, as I said, I would say painfully simple. Defend what matters. Prioritize. Take calculated risks. Be practical. Advance defense technologies and automation, and take an holistic approach. Now, these are not slogans. This is actually a call for action. Bottom line, each one of you is responsible for the security of his organization. But if you are not willing or afraid to prioritize, if you are not taking calculated risk, you are actually creating a much bigger risk over your organization. Because trying to defend everything is as if you are defending nothing. Allow me to finish with the story about the bear in Alaska. So Tim and John went camping in Alaska. Morning came, they went out of the tent, and they saw a furious bear running at them. So Tim said, John, can you pass me the running shoes? And John said, what do you need the running shoes for? The bear will outrun you anyway. So Tim said, I don't have to outrun the bear, I have to outrun you. Now, in the cyber world, this is roughly the same story. If anybody told you it can make you fully protected, don't believe it. You cannot be fully protected, and you don't have to be fully protected. You have to be better protected than your competition. Because as an attacker, I can tell you that the attacker will notice it immediately. He will see that you are better protected and go to the other bank. He don't want to deal with you. You don't have to outrun the bear. You have to outrun your friend. Thank you.
Thank you, An, for a brilliant, brilliant talk. No surprises there. How are you? Perfect? Yay! We have amazing sessions ahead of us.